Hello and welcome. My name is Raymond Penny, and I wanted to give everyone an opportunity to listen to me based on the topic that I used at Rec Expo, and the topic was AI in recruitment and cutting through the BS. So what I'll do is I'll run through it probably without the corny jokes, and hopefully everyone finds it useful. Thanks to everyone who asked for a copy of the slides after we did the presentation, so I thought I would share it with more people generally. So here we go. So first of all, who am I? My name is Raymond Penny. I'm founder and CEO of Kylo Partners, and Kylo Partners are an SI and a marketplace partner for Bullhorn. And I've been in the recruitment industry for a long time, so I probably think myself as an OG. And this is a mid-journey version of myself with some Highland cows in the background. Start with a tweet that was put out by Elon on X, and this was done a week ago, where he said that AI will probably be smarter than any single human being next year. To me, it's already smarter than I am, and by 2029, AI is probably going to be smarter than all of humans combined. Now that's the scary part. So that's the context with which I introduce it into the recruitment sector. I was also given the opportunity by Martin Redstone to quote something that he put onto LinkedIn. And he put onto LinkedIn, which I thought was very topical, was that conversational and generative AI, which is what I'm going to speak to today, in recruitment is like high school sex. And everybody's talking about it, and everybody thinks everyone else is doing it, but actually not many people are. So with that in mind, I thought I would run through what we are seeing at Kylo. Now, the potential of AI, and I've used something that Bain put forward in some research that they did, was they said that based on large language models and AI tools, they thought that every member of staff, every worker within a business would speed up 20% without any loss in quality. My personal view is I think it'll improve the quality, not only prevent any loss in quality. And that's when you deploy a standard large language model just to use in generative AI to begin with, and that will allow people to reduce costs, increase productivity, and enhance quality to be cheaper, faster, better. My view is that this is the first time in 20 years that recruitment businesses will be able to actually gain a higher amount of revenue per consultant without consultants feeling like they've got to do a whole bunch of new stuff. I genuinely think it's the biggest change I've seen in 20 years. Now, in order to set some context, being able to write prompts, and for those that understand it, it's a prompt is what you give to one of the large language models. I'll keep speaking about ChatGPT. There are many more, and it's actually really hard. And if you remember the days of Boolean and Boolean searches, it was quite easy to get ands and ors. So here's one as an example: a SaaS or software as a service, and sales, and or account management, and recruitment, etc. Lots of ands and ors and brackets. And I think most people got their head around that. As you then get into ands, ors, and nots, in, near, or embedded ors, which is the right hand side of the screen, I think it becomes much more complicated, and not everyone really got there. So if you can remember back, there was a time when you could be accredited almost with being a Boolean black belt. And that Boolean black belt was somebody who could do the really difficult versions of Boolean. And what that meant was it allowed people to be able to find candidates much more effectively than they previously had done. And that was a big step forward. My opinion, AI and Gen AI is going to have exactly the same impact. So this is a meme that for those of you that use X, you may have seen. What it illustrates is there are two groups of people who are going to make more money from AI. On the left hand side are the people who don't think about it. All they do is use it. And on the right hand side, we've got people who have given it so much thought that they've got it perfectly worked out as to how it's going to be fitting in their business. And they're also going to make more money because of it. The normal distribution curve ends up with people who worry about it. And going back to Martin's quote, people worry about getting their policies right. How does it impact on GDPR? Which model to use? How much does it cost? Should I use the API? Lots and lots of reasons not to use it. So I really like that meme. My view is it has to be easy. You've got to make it easy to use, and it has to fit with the workflow that you follow in your business. And if we do that, like all the other tech that gets adopted really quickly by your consultants, if you make it easier for them to use than to do the alternative, then they'll all follow it. So in following that example, here are the top 3 use cases that we've seen of the 20 customers that we've been running our AI integration with in the last 6 months. So the 3 use cases are: write me a job advert, summarize the skills and experience of a candidate, and prepare some interview questions for the candidate to be ready with to send to them ahead of going for that important interview. Writing a job advert is about 24%, summarize skills is about 34%, and write interviews is about 20%. So a large chunk, almost 3/4 of all the prompts that we've seen used with our integration are based loosely around these 3. So let's look at each one and identify how they can be improved on or what challenges they have in each scenario. So to begin with, this is what Kylo AI Assist looks like, and we use the model that is role, task, format. So what we have here is a job order prompt that says, you're a recruiter, write me a job advert and make it 750 words long with HTML tags in British English and make it quite technical. Please remove the bias, please anonymize. You think that would be quite simple. What happens is we end up with a number of challenges. If the data in your CRM isn't in the right place or isn't complete, then I guarantee that no matter how good the prompt is, you won't get the quality of response you wish, and therefore you end up being challenged in how well your team adopt it. Things that we've seen are job descriptions might be an email, not in CRM. You may have a 3-line job description which was taken from a conversation, or it's somebody just being quite lazy and not uploading the file, not putting it in the right field, and not giving it the emphasis you need. So therefore using that information in order to try and write a job advert won't give you the full potential. Now also we've seen that people have their own style, their own order with which they create a job advert, and they like to see a summary followed by bullet points about what to do on the job, what skills are needed and what the benefits are, and you've actually then got to teach the model the framework or the guidelines that you need to use. So make sure that the information finds its way into your CRM in the right place, and if it does, then you won't have as many challenges as we've seen. The next one is a candidate only prompt, and here we're speaking about being able to summarize the skills and experience. We just want it in 500 words, we want it in English, and we want it in bullet points and really quite simplified. Again, what happens here is if the information isn't in the database, or you haven't parsed your most up-to-date resume into the resume field, then you're going to struggle. If the last CV was sent, found its way into a mailbox but didn't find its way onto CRM, you might be summarizing the skills and experience of the candidate 2 years ago and not what you have today. Equally, if you haven't been able to say things like how much that candidate would work for or the location, then that wouldn't equally be included in the skills and experience of the candidate when you're trying to put forward those bullet points to explain why the interview should really be done with this candidate over others. So once again, challenges we see are process and getting the data into the right place in order for the prompts to pick it up. In this instance, we're using Claude. Claude's the one by Anthropic as opposed to ChatGPT 3.5. And again, we're able to use the remove bias and the anonymize here. If I move on one more time, in a world where if you Google AI resume or AI CV builder, these are the top, well, on my search history, these are the top 6 people. There are probably 25 free AI resume builders. So if you have a candidate who hasn't used AI to help improve their resume in order for it to match your job, then why haven't they? But because of this, you end up in a situation where matching is going to become more and more difficult. And that's because the job description will create the advert. The advert will go to the job boards or your own website, and then someone will be using their resume, their CV, using AI to make it match the job advert. So therefore, when you start using Boolean search, as I referred to earlier, then it'd be equally hard. Everyone is going to be a high ranking match. And with that respect, it's going to make it more important that you're able to ask and get your consultants to ask really good interview questions. So here's another example. And in this instance, we're looking at the job submission. And the job submission is really the combination of the candidate who's been shortlisted on the job along with the job itself. And in this instance, we're asking for competency-based interviews for the job that the candidate should prepare for. Now, equally, those could be questions that your recruiter should prepare for and be ready to ask the candidate when you're doing the screening. So here, what we find is that the job description, once again, isn't in the right place, and you don't have access to the conversation that was had between the hiring manager and your consultant, which explained the really important parts of the role that were going to be key to the successful candidate. They are in a notebook somewhere. They haven't found their way into the notes section, or even more importantly, onto the details section of the job on CRM. So when you start to use prompts in order to put that forward to the large language models, it doesn't know, so it becomes really boring. You're going to ask boring questions, and those questions may not be the really important parts that the hiring manager told your consultants about. So somehow we've got to get those calls, get them transcribed, and get the information to find their way into your CRM and ATS in order to be able to use AI or generative AI really effectively. Now, what we've found here is an example is we have been able to find the transcript of the call with the hiring manager, and therefore we're saying that use the prompt along with the information that was held in the call and was transcribed into a file and added against the record. And here we're going to say summarize the text into meeting notes. Those meeting notes can then be put on a record and used when you're in conjunction with the job spec and the hiring manager to write a much better advert, but also to write a much better set of questions, and therefore make sure that you've covered off those important things that you learned in your conversation with the hiring manager that don't always find their way into the CRM, but make the difference for the candidate that's going forward so that they can really stand out when you get there. I've spoken mostly about OpenAI and about ChatGPT. ChatGPT's almost become the name for large language models. There are many others. Claude, you may hear, is called Anthropic. That's another big one that's backed by Amazon. They've recently upgraded to Claude 3. 3.5 for ChatGPT 3.5 is the one that is really fast. ChatGPT 4 is slightly more expensive, runs slightly slower, and then you get into ChatGPT 4.5 or 5, which aren't actually out yet, and they might be the ones that are going to help you. We found that ChatGPT 3.5 is very to the point, and Claude is much more conversational in the way that it provides particularly interview questions in order to give to candidates. Mistral is the new European one, which hopefully will be able to help all our European friends when we add that in order to meet all the GDPR requirements. It's also hosted in France. Gemini is the Google version, and of course we've got Llama by Meta. We're still waiting on the API connections for Gemini, and Llama we haven't experienced yet, but not all models are equal, so therefore encouraging people to test them, to have flexibility with them, and for you to be able to work out which one best suits the style that you need. And then I thought I'd close by something that was a headline from last September, which was again a report that was put out by Bain Consultants, and what it said is you're out of time to wait and see on AI. If you're not currently using AI, please make it the one thing that you find those extra few pounds or dollars for in order to get it into your business so you can start building up your knowledge of how it works so you can be the one that gets that productivity. Now, that was in September 2023. We're now 6 months on, and every week things change so wildly in the world of artificial intelligence. So as I say to everyone, please get started, find some budget somewhere, and if you're going to buy one thing this year, make it your first introduction into AI and how to use it in line with your ATS and CRM. Thank you very much for your time. My name's Raymond Penny, and please look out for more information from Kylo about how we're building integrations with AI. Thank you.